We need all modes of transport. That is quite clear in this white paper, and I think that's absolutely true. We have to develop all modes of transport to be, to be more efficient, to have other engines, for example, to be more efficient in a way like, for example, Single European Sky, to have shorter ways to go. By this, to need less costs and less fuel and everything. We must look for for a replacement of the fuel for an independency of oil. That's completely right. We have to look for cleaner cars, for cleaner and smaller cars. Well, I'm not quite sure whether it will be really possible to have no cars anymore in the cities by 2050. Of course, in the urban mobility, we have a big challenge and a big possibility to have much more public transport that will be more sustainable.
The really interesting question which we need to address is, what is the constructive combination of the debate on fuel efficiency legislation, CO2 emissions of cars, and future technologies? Because obviously we will need future technologies to reach zero CO2 emissions. Now, a non-constructive way of go forward, from my point of view, is to say, let's not think about fuel efficiency legislation, because anyway we'll have in the future these wonderful technologies, they solve it all. That's already not possible, because CO2 is accumulative and we need to take care of the next 20 years as well. The internal combustion engine will be with us globally for the next 30, 40, even 50 years. So we need to work on that. And it totally underestimates, of course, such an argumentation also the possibilities of internal combustion engines to reduce CO2 emissions. We estimate with the studies we're working on in the moment that the normal car today can still be made 50% more efficient. And we need to do that as fast as possible.
Today we are talking about transport. You have already pointed out that combustion engines becoming more and more energy efficient will be with us for the next 30 or even 50 years. Especially the road-bound heavy goods transport, you need liquid fuel because of its high energy density. These liquid fuels can be produced from biomass, but also from mineral oil. And what we are looking for is a smooth transition and a smooth rebuilding of our complete transport system. Why? Because, for example, e-mobility is not just a question of exchanging a combustion engine with an electric engine. This is a whole system. Electric mobility relies on CO2-free produced electric energy.
I think perhaps the first comment to make is actually it's very encouraging, because although we may disagree and perhaps quite substantially disagree on some of the detail, I don't think there's anybody on the platform who really is trying to assert that we can just carry on business as usual and nothing changes. I think while we may all agree on that, though, we actually all of you in the room have a huge job to do in educating our public to realise that we must change, but also that we can change, that change isn't something that we should be frightened of, but change is something that we must prepare for and start preparing for now, otherwise it will become very difficult in the future. And I think that leads me then into responding to some of Martin Rochel's points in particular. I mean, he says he welcomes the paper, but actually we don't have enough vision, we're not ambitious enough. Well, it's true that we are primarily targeting for 2050 the 80% emissions cut rather than the 95%, the top end of the emissions cut. But I think in terms of what we're doing today, actually, the kind of things we have to do are pretty much the same whether you're going for 80 or 95%. And as the science of climate change moves on, as our knowledge of oil availability moves on, as our knowledge of alternative technologies moves on, then we can leave it to the policymakers in future to refine precisely how far we must go, how far we can afford to go in economic terms, where the costs and benefits actually cut off. But what we need to be doing today, and what I really believe we have done in the right paper, is send a very clear signal that actually we need to change, and we need to change pretty dramatically.
There is no doubt it's not only about technology. We need to look really at the sort of modal mix that we have. For the modal shifts to take place, you've got to have the right incentives for people to change their behaviour. I think if one of the criticisms that probably was valid around the white paper is maybe not explicit enough around the challenges of consumer acceptance and public acceptance. And I really would urge all of you working in the policy space to think hard about that. I mean, clearly, in the commercial world, we think a lot about what it takes for our products and services to be bought by consumers, and that is something that, at the end of the day, is absolutely crucial.